So here's a dish which is on the menu at Trinity at the moment, which I rarely do on here, but it's really nice to do the odd Trinity dish every now and then. This is fresh scallops using the very best of what's available at the moment in the summer. Scallops are such a great ingredient to pair with tomatoes and peaches and apricots and white strawberries and all sorts. So they're such a versatile ingredient. And this is almost like a sort of inspired by a ceviche. That's where it comes from. And you're really getting to celebrate the scallop, the purity of the scallop, and everything the scallop's about with the balance of the peaches and tomatoes. But like everything, there's a little twist in there as well. So stick around. This is a really lovely ceviche. Okay, we're going to start with these hand-dyed scallops, which we get in a couple of times a week. Let's cut them down, take the top shell off. Just need a couple of these, and we just cut through that muscle, take the bottom shell off. And then we use a spoon, sharpest spoon, just to pull the scallop out like that. So if you see that, Sam, you just come underneath the bottom there, underneath that muscle there, and you just free it up. Once the scallop is freed up, all you need to do is just put your thumb along that muscle, push in, push down, and pop out the meat, like so. That goes into ice water for a couple of minutes, just to clean off, make sure there's no grit in there. Very simple. We do keep the roes and we keep all the skirts for another thing as well. They just go in there for a second. You don't want to be leaving these in there very long. You want to be just leaving in there for 1 minute, give them a really good wash because they will absorb the water. We're not going to pan fry them, so it's less important. But if you're going to pan fry these, very important that you do take them out quite quickly. I'm going to dry those on a cloth, a clean cloth. And when you stack them together, it's very important that they are the straight side against the curved side all the way down, and that way they will hold their shape. Cut them how you want. Use the fruits how you want, but the principles of how I'm going to show you to do this now are pretty much the same, and will result in a really delicious kind of cold, chilled salad that's nice and fresh. Loads of herbs in there, and there's a couple of little clever bits that just make this really interesting. Now pair that with fruits. I like stone fruits in the season they're in. I like tomatoes when they're super ripe, and this is a nice way of celebrating all of that. So first thing we're going to do is just prep some of these tomatoes. These are Vesuvius tomatoes. I'm going to cut those down like so. Open them up. Beautiful. They're still slightly acidic, which I really like for this dish as well. And I'm just going to cut myself. I'm not going to take the skins off. I'm just going to cut really evenly, really nice thin slices like that of tomato. They're going to go on a plate, as they would in the kitchen downstairs actually. They just go on a plate, and they get marinated before service so they can yield and soften and take on all that seasoning and become more than they should be. So just pop those tomatoes on like so. Let's do another half. Cut them nice and thin. You're thinking about the textures when you're layering this up. You're thinking about how thin the tomatoes are, what the tomatoes bring into the plate, a little bit of acidity. You're thinking about the way the tomato is going to be seasoned, how sweet it is, and the crunchy texture of it. So it's bringing something completely different to the plate as well. They go flat on a plate like that, just so they can be seasoned really nicely. It's not for presentation, they're not staying on there, but that amount of salt and lovely, good quality olive oil is paramount. That stays on there. Okay, there's the tomato end of it. We'll give that a little black pepper as well, and they're nicely seasoned. Ideally, those tomatoes want to sit there for 20-30 minutes like that, and they'll just relax. They'll take on the olive oil and the salt. They'll be much nicer. I'm just going to cut through this peach like so. Take the cheeks off the peach essentially, and I'm going to slice those very thin as well. And they're really just to garnish, but what we're looking for from the peach, just like that. And any trimmings, any extra pieces of peach, like the other two cheeks like this, we're going to take those off. And this is where it gets a little bit more interesting. So once you've sliced all those peaches and all the tomatoes, you're left with the trim of the tomatoes like so. And we're sort of going to make like a very quick gazpacho, if you like, and turn that into a tomato water, and that's going to form what is the base of the dressing for this dish, or the liquid that's going to give us all that yield and all that acidity. So you're blending a slightly acidic tomato with a really sweet stone fruit, and that's what's going to give it that incredible flavour. So that goes in there like so. Wants a little bit of salt as well to make it bleed out. It wants olive oil. Beautiful. And then that's also going to get a little bit of lemon verbena. Now what we tend to do is, I happen to have a huge lemon verbena tree in my garden, so we harvest all of that and then we dehydrate it. Doesn't lose much flavour and still yields a really lovely perfume and aroma. So we just pop a bit of that lemon verbena in there like so. Give that a blend. And we're going to end up with a kind of liquid that we can pass through, and we get this real essence, almost like a tomato water, which we can then take all the juice out and use that to dress our scallop as well. There we go. So that's peachy and tomatoey. Slightly acidic, olive oily, a little bit of salt in there as well. Now, what I'm going to do is hang that on a bit of muslin. You can put it through a chinois or a fine sieve if you wanted, and best done overnight. It doesn't really work like this in this kind of scenario, but you'll get the idea. Put it through and then just hang it through like that, and what will drip through eventually will be this incredible juice. And I'll leave that for a couple of minutes, come back to it, and you'll see that lovely juice come through. And that's what we're going to use to cook our scallop and make our ceviche. Okay, so I've been standing here for about 3.5 hours now. Not really, no. I just hung it on a pot, and eventually you get that liquid come through. And this is like liquid gold. You didn't need a lot of it for the sauce, and it is ultimately the trimming from cutting the tomato and cutting the peach, but it will yield just enough to make a lovely, lovely ceviche. But that's magic right there. What we're going to add into that is, thank you, Robbie. This is a pickle liquor. So it's 1 part good white wine vinegar, 1 part water, 1 part sugar, brought to the boil, reduced down and chilled. Put a little bit of that in there. And this just helps to kind of bring everything together, and the acid in there is what's going to ultimately cook all the scallops as well. I'm really happy with that. There's enough salt in there. I don't want it to be too salty. I want to make sure it's got enough going on. Okay, and it really is as simple as that. I've got my tomatoes, I've got my peach, I've got my scallops, got my liquid. Get yourself ready, get yourself en place if you like. Then you can start, if you've got a dinner party for 6-8 people, then you can start to build this dish out, place it on the plates really lovely. So this is a dish to get ready in advance, get yourself sorted, and then pull it together. It's very simple. And this amount of acid from the tomatoes and the acid from the peach in here, zoom in here Sam, this is beautiful. The acid here from the tomatoes and the peach and the pickle is enough to set and cook those scallops to a point where the texture becomes really palatable. Okay, to dress that, let's go into hyper focus mode, yeah? A bit of peach in there for texture. And again over here, make 2 of these for you, Sam, so you can have 1 for your lunch. Can you see that all right? You okay? Keeping up. Got it. So. I'm going to take this olive oil. Look at those colours, Sam. It's just extraordinary, isn't it? I just think it's this dressing that brings the whole thing to life. Look. Each scallop's just going to get a little bit of top salt. Then I'm going to finish that with a little nasturtium. It's quite sour. A bit of this chive flour. And these lovely cornflowers. This is a pretty and elegant plate of food. Something that I love dearly, and it's all about that juice in the bottom of the plate there. That scallop has been in the shell under 10 minutes ago. And it's that juice on the bottom, the crunch of the tomatoes, the freshness of the whole thing. I think that's an absolute triumph. And exactly the sort of food that I love to make in the summer. And you don't have to make a plate of food that's that pretty and that elegant. That's what we do at Trinity. That's how we do things, and I love it like that. But if I was at home, I would be chopping up all those fruits, dicing them up nicely, dicing up the scallop. I would make the dressing in the same way, and I would dress it all together, put it on a big platter, and then serve that to my friends ice cold. The perfect thing for a starter in the summer. I hope you give this one a go. All I ask, as always, very little. Just subscribe and like. Keeps the channel going. Thank you very much. Enjoy. Happy cooking. I'm off.